Yeah, we're live.
All right. Well, welcome everyone that's here with us, and for you out there in video land, I want to say welcome to you. I'm Doug Wilkerson with Saturday Night Live Life Recovery. Life recovery means we're dealing with stuff in life, and the idea is that if we can recognize what's going on, then we're able to deal with it. And so tonight we're going to be addressing that kind of topic. It was selected by, I guess, Will, and so the topic is removing deeper hurts. That's out of Jonah 4 through 8. And of course, this is associated with step 6. Step 6 is we were entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And the idea here is that we want to help not only you that are in the room, but you that's on the video to do better, get better. And the way you do that is by dealing with the stuff, because we all got stuff, right? Anybody here stuffless? Cut your attention on that one, didn't I? But we all got stuff, right? And so life is messy. And so what we're trying to do is we're all working through this or struggling through this as fellow strugglers. And so we all have different things at different stages, so it's a process. And it's not about perfection, okay? It's about progress. So we are going to ask the question, except that's not the question right there yet. Too many pages in. There you go. What does removing deeper hurts mean? Any thoughts? I do have paperwork back here on the offering table that will go over this part of the meeting if you've got it. I'm assuming some of you probably already read it through, right? Yes. Anyone want to answer that question? What does removing deeper hurts mean?
I can read it here.
Go right ahead. Read it loud.
Removing deeper hurts means identifying and healing the emotional wounds, trauma, and unresolved pain that lie beneath the surface, behaviors, thoughts, or symptoms.
What do you think that means?
It's healing. It's removing things that have caused us to stumble for so many years.
Mm-hmm. Well, what does it mean under the surface?
It gets deeper than just what you can see.
Okay. All right. You know, because we have surface stuff and then we have stuff underneath the surface stuff. And usually we hide the stuff that's underneath the surface.
Yeah.
Yes? So, good. And so it's beneath the surface. And it says behaviors, thoughts, and symptoms, right?
Yeah.
So we have behaviors. Anybody here ever acted out, did anything?
Never.
Yes.
Never.
Yes. And how about thoughts? You say, well, what am I thinking? Why do I act this way? Right? Anybody ever had that? Yes.
Never.
Yeah. So anyway, we're talking about that there's something that's driving those thoughts and behaviors and feelings and actions, right? And that's what we're talking about. And there probably hurts. And so what we're doing is trying to deal with that. How's that? So let's ask a little deeper question. What are deeper hurts? That's right on the sheet there. If you've got a sheet. They're not just everyday disappointments. Okay, right? They're not just disappointments. They are past traumas, childhood wounds, shame, guilt, loss, grief, Anybody here have any of those so far? You don't have to answer that. Lies about about yourself, others, or even God. What do you think about that? Due to past experiences. Anybody ever got hurt by, you hurt yourself, or you hurt others hurt you, or even you say that God hurt you? Anybody ever did that? Yeah, you don't have to answer that. So, these wounds often live beneath the surface and shape us. What do you think about that? Isn't that an interesting statement?
Yeah.
Yeah? I got one that's with me on it. Yeah. But so, what are we talking about? Shaping. Shaping. Tommy, what do you think that means?
What?
What do you think that we're talking about here? That these wounds often live beneath the surface and they shape us.
They mold us and
Oh,
make
because
us.
they turn us into who we think we are.
They turn us into
Like who we think we are.
who we think we are.
Yeah.
Say that in a different way.
They turn us into who we allow ourselves to become.
Okay. All right. So they shape us, so we say that this emotional stuff underneath the surface pushes us around and makes us do stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Until we realize that God has plans for us that aren't what allowed ourselves to become.
Good, good, good. And so don't answer this until you think about it. So then these wounds and hurts that are down underneath the surface, they're the one that's driving us. So they control our life. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Yes.
As long as we allow them to.
Okay, all right. And so is that healthy or unhealthy?
Unhealthy for the most part.
So what do we do about that, John?
We realize that God has good things for us,
Yeah.
and we turn our problems over to God
Yes.
and let Him deal with them.
Yes.
And through us letting Him deal with them, we can deal with them better ourselves.
Okay. So in other words, say that is surrender, right?
Yeah.
Surrender our way to His way.
Yeah.
How easy is that?
Not.
No. Jesus even had a hard time with that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Scripture says that Jesus learned, though he was son, he learned obedience by the things he suffered.
Paul doesn't have a problem with that.
Paul did. Yes, he did. Yeah. Before he became Paul and after he became Paul. But he got better, little by little. I don't know that we ever get totally healed up, but we get better, right?
Yeah.
Is that too much? Okay, so what are some of these wounds that live beneath the surface that are shaping us? Well, my paperwork here says that how we see ourselves. How do you see yourself?
In a mirror.
That's good, Tina.
Mirror.
Yes, well.
I look myself in a mirror.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about how your conception of yourself. How do you perceive yourself? How do you think about yourself? And or could we say, what things do you say to yourself about yourself? How about that statement? So and if you listen to what you say about you, to you, about you, that would give you a good indication of some of the things that may be lying or living underneath the surface, right? Well, they have, instead of asking for a suggestion, they have a suggestion down here, if I remember, if I can find where I'm at on the paper. Okay, where am I at?
I think it says somewhere in the Bible.
There it is. Go ahead. Yes, John?
I think it says somewhere in the Bible, we see through a glass that we see their glass as cloudy. We don't see the full picture currently.
It's kind of like looking through a fog glass, right?
Glass, yeah. But when we clean up the glass, we can see clearer.
When we get the fog off, or the dirt off, or whatever other biological material that might be on your glass.
We see ourselves as sinners, but God sees us as His children.
His way He sees us has never changed since He created us.
Yeah.
Before He even sent us here on this earth.
Before time began, He created us.
That's right.
That was perfect.
And so one of the things that we may say to ourselves is, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I'm bad,
We'll sin our mind.
I can't get anything right, I can do nothing right. That would be how you, Tina, those statements would be how you see yourself. How you talk to yourself, probably how you see yourself. What do you think about that? Would you agree with that? Yes? And how we relate to others. If we fear intimacy or trust, I have people all the time telling me that, well, I don't trust people. Well, I understand. But the rest of the story, you probably don't trust yourself either. What do you think about that statement? So there must be something going on inside of us, right? Ooh, maybe that's some of those deeper hurts that we were talking about. What do you think? Gosh, I didn't know I had deeper hurts in me. Well, yeah, they probably were those things I suppressed and repressed way down inside. Got any of those? Maybe. All right, let's go on. So, and how we cope. Well, that's kind of what Saturday Night Live is about, is how we've coped with our stuff. Okay, right? Addictions, anger, violence, control, all kinds of obsessive compulsive behaviors, right? What does that mean, obsessive compulsive behaviors? Yeah? Lori? You coughed at the right time?
I did cough.
Things you do repetitively.
And you say, they're out of my control, I just do them, right? That's because we have caused them to be part of our life pattern, our habits, right? And so we can do them without even thinking, right? How we react, the words we say, our behaviors. Sometimes we can internalize that anger and rage and stuff, and we can act out without even having to think about it. It's just a reaction. Well, that's the way I am, because that's the way I've always been. That's the way my family is. Nobody here has ever said that. Maybe I have, but just maybe. Kinda yes. But the thing of it is, those are not rules we have to live by, right? So, I'm gonna touch this and one more thing, because I got a bunch on here, but I'm not gonna go over it. You can get the sheet and read it. So, what does removing mean? Now, see, I'm going through each part of our topic here tonight, talking about it, and it's not ignoring or covering up, right? We're not covering up, but what are we here to do? I've got 5 things listed there, and I'll read them. And it is recognizing. What are we recognizing? Well, we're recognizing our pain, and we're being honest. Who are we honest with? Well, that's a good question.
Ourselves.
Yeah, ourselves. That's one.
God.
I couldn't hear you. God, that's 2. That's good.
Another human being.
And another human being. Sounds like step 5 there, doesn't it? And that helps us to get in the process, right? Well, why do I have to do those things? Well, it's different parts of us that's coming online, and you're choosing to do that, and that helps you to get healthier and healthier, and you're becoming more and more responsible and control of yourself. Would you agree with that statement? Okay, this is number 2, naming the hurt and its root cause. Wow. I always say you got to name it to tame it, right? You got to name it to tame it. Okay, because if you don't know what you're talking about, you know, it's just I don't know why I act this way. As long as you stay with that, you're always going to be pushed around by whatever that is. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we have to name it. Okay, and so we name the root cause. Now that can be difficult, but if you really don't know. And of course, I have people all the time that come to me in my office and say, well, I don't know what it is. And I said, well, if you don't know, who does? That's a pretty good question, wouldn't you say so? Well, I know if you're convinced you don't know, which I didn't used to believe that was possible, but I found out there's been research saying, there's a research study that done with about 100 women. And this was back in the 70s, a university did a research that they had people that had been molested, young ladies had been molested or raped, and they entered into their medical records exactly what had happened. And 25 years later, they followed up on those folks, and I think they were only able to hunt down 60 of them. And they asked them about if they'd ever been molested, and I think 60 to 65% of them denied ever being molested. They had no memory of it. Some of the others did have memory of it, but sometimes we can repress, according to this research, we can repress certain traumas so much, then we can put it kind of in a box. You like to call it a chest, right? Tommy, you're the one who likes to call it a chest.
Yeah.
But we can put it in a box and hide it away where we can't even remember it. So sometimes we have to maybe do some truth seeking in ourselves, and if we can feel it, then there's a reason why it's there, right? And if you can feel it and there's a reason why it's there, so that means it's real, even though we may not be able to name it yet. And if you seek, according to the scriptures, says you will find. And I would be careful about going too far too fast, but also another way of asking God to help you and show you what you need to know about this situation. What do you think about that? You might think about that. Number 3, bringing it into the light. That's so important, which is basically what we kind of already talked about in a fashion with God, a safe person, or a counselor. Could be a pastor, could be a friend, a good friend, a safe friend. And so, and when you do that, it affects you. It starts to bring clarity into your life. And when you see things differently, you feel differently, and you behave differently. How's that? Any questions so far? Shall we go to number 4? Number 4, allowing healing through truth, forgiveness, and love. Allowing healing through truth, forgiveness, and love. We want to allow healing, and sometimes when we get into the amends process, some people have tried to make amends to help themselves, but in doing so, they hurt other people. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. We don't, that's not the healthiest approach. So what we want to do is to allow ourselves to heal with truth. Okay? With truth. What is truth? Well, truth is what's real. What's real. Now, let's talk about this for a second. This is a little bit off the path here, but sometimes we believe something and we think it's true because we believed it for a long time. And we've convinced ourselves it's true. But if we really look inside and say, wait a minute, is that rational? Is that really the truth? Or have I thought that for so long that I just have acted like it was true? Has anybody ever gone through that process yet? It's kind of a mind stimmer, okay? But then you realize you bought into a lie and you told yourself it's truth. Has anybody here ever deceived themselves? That's what I'm talking about. You're all a bunch of liars. Because nobody raised their hand. How about you out there in TV land? Okay? So, we've all deceived ourselves somewhere, sometime about something, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to allow ourselves to heal through the truth. And dealing with the truth means we have to be willing to forgive ourselves and forgive others.
Yeah.
And of course, in doing that, you really have to be operating in love. Not in anger, okay? Or in fear, okay? Number 5, replacing the lie. Okay, replacing the lie, the pain produced with God's truth. Now, I guess I already talked about that to a degree already. So we seek the truth, and because the scripture says know the truth and truth will set you free. So what happens to your life if you're basing your life or building your life on a lie? Right? So we need to know the truth. You say, well, that's hard to know the truth. Well, I believe, according to the scriptures and through my past 50 years experience, that you have enough truth inside of you already to identify the truth if you're seriously interested in asking. Does that make sense? Yes? Comments? Disagreements? Hey,
Asking who?
do what?
Asking who?
Asking what?
You said, you have enough in us to what something about the truth if we really want to ask or something?
Right.
Ask who?
Okay, that's a good question. Who would you ask if you really wanted to know the truth?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Excuse me?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Well, what we do is, I say it this way, okay, and then I expound on it. Are you ready for this? I say, if you propose a question to the universe will speak to you. Now, who's the universe? Well, to me, the universe is God. Okay? And so, but even if you don't even believe in God, and you ask a question, you're having faith that there's something there. Okay? And that faith is in that there's something there, which is God, whether you realize it or not. Kind of like what Paul was talking to the, I can't even think the city where they had all these gods, and they had one God to the unknown God, and he says, you're faithfully praying to that God, and that unknown God is not unknown to me. It's God, Almighty God. And so, and whether you realize it or not, or they realize it or not, that right there is faith, even if you don't even know it. And according to the scriptures, that pleases God. Yeah, I know it's maybe a little weird, but that doesn't mean it's not true. Okay. Questions? Good question there. Thank you. Appreciate it. Did I answer that question? Okay. It's Doug. It's Doug. Okay, so how does this topic tie with step 6? Anybody want to adventure a talk or look at it on the sheet here and say something off it? Trying to find it. Oh, there it is, connection. The step again is we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Are you guys getting ready to release your defects of character? Or you want to hang on to them?
Let's get rid of them.
Why? How's hanging on to them worked out for you?
They've got me in some situations that I didn't know how to get out of.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know if I would be able to get out of.
What'd you do? How'd you get out of it?
I changed.
Changed. Did you ask God for some help?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Okay, so this step is not just about behavioral change. You know, back in the 60s and 70s when I was learning some of this stuff, mainly 70s, that, you know, but it was happening in the 60s, it was mainly about behavior modification, changing your behaviors, forcing, causing, punishing people to have behavior modification. And they learned something when they was doing that. That don't work. How's it work with you? Right? Behavior modification, right? Because yeah, you can get somebody to be different for a little while, but if they're not changed on the inside, okay, as soon as they're out from underneath the pressure, what happens?
They go back.
Right. Okay. So then, you know, it went to a short time of really about emotional, dealing with the emotions, but then of course, actually the cognitive stuff came online about in the 70s. I'm thinking that Ellis, I think he started in the late 50s, but he really got it active in the 70s, and he taught a cognitive method that all the ones that are used nowadays that spun out of his system, and that's REBT. And so, and that is when you change the way you think, that changes the way you feel. And when you change the way you feel, then that affects how you behave. Simple, right?
Yeah.
No.
Until you try to do it. So, but it's important. And man, I went to his class when he taught a crash course at Pittsburgh State. That was before it was a university. And for a summer, which was just 1 week, I went to his class. And of course, I didn't know him at the time, but I really, that was a beneficial class for me. And it was like 4 days of, 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours, and so a day. And so it was quite a class, but it helped me to understand how I could grab a hold of my thoughts and cause them to line up with the truth. And when it wasn't truthful, then to eliminate them by choosing not to think about them anymore and choosing to think on the truth. And it takes a lot of practice, but you can do it. And that really helped me because I knew the scriptures. But just because you know the scriptures, if you don't implement them into your belief system, then you just know something, but there's other stuff up there that's captured all the space in your brain. You know what I'm talking about? All right? And so what we have to do is we have to be willing, and we're talking about that tonight, we have to be willing to go in there and remove these deeper hurts and beliefs. Okay, these fears, because fear is a belief, and begin to remove them so we have space for the truth to come in. What do you think about that? Same thing you thought last time, right? So here we are. Step 6 is really about not just having behavioral change. It's about being ready for internal healing. And most of this false belief or lies are really driven by fear. Can you grab that? By fear. And there's only 2 major emotions. One is love, which is God. God is love, or fear. I wonder who makes up fear. That's something, right? So if we live in fear, then we're not able to really to function in love the way love wants us to. So we have to make that change. And let me read this last sentence here, okay, and then I'll shut up and we'll go to. By the way, we're not having music tonight. I guess you already knew that. That healing includes removing the deeper hurts that have been fueling those defects of character. Right? What are some of those defects? Rejection, abuse, abandonment, shame, betrayal. Wow, and then of course fear. All right. Comments? Thoughts? Who's reading the 12 steps tonight? Tommy? Tommy, will you make an offering on the clean time bands? Thanks, everybody.
Here at Saturday Night Live, we like to acknowledge clean time. The colorful bracelets, this clean time isn't just from drugs and alcohol, but from whatever keeps you in bondage. Drugs, alcohol, anger, gambling, food addiction, lying, cheating, stealing, pornography, sex addiction, cutting, you fill in the blanks. We have white bracelets just for today or less than 30 days. Orange for 30 days. Green for 60.
30 days. 50 days, right? 50. 50? Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Maroon for 90. Blue for 6 months. Yellow for 9 months. Glow in the dark for a year. Gray for 18 months. Black for 2 or more years. Silver for 5 or more years. Gold for 10 or more years. Once again, who needs a white bracelet just for today or less than 30 days? Keep coming back. Thank you.
Thanks, Donnie.
Now the 12 steps. There. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. 7. We humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. We made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all our affairs. And once again, we're on number 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommy.
Good evening, group. Oh, how about that? Good evening, everyone. How we doing?
All right.
Removing deeper hurt. Bible readings out of Jonah 4:4-8. We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. When we are upset, we often depend on our addiction to help us feel better.
Okay. Why is that?
It is what we trained ourselves to go to when to avoid the pain.
Okay. All right. So do you agree or disagree with that
I agree
statement?
with that.
Okay. All right. Any comments from anybody else? Okay. All right. So do you guys agree with that statement? The statement that he read there? When we're upset, we often depend on our addiction to make us feel better.
Yes.
How's that work? How's that working out for us?
Right here.
Okay. All right.
We must face, wait a minute, I messed up there. As we get rid of our addictions, we must face the deeper character defects that God wants to heal.
Okay, hold it right there. So I've got the deeper character defects circled. Okay. So as we get rid of our addiction, what happens?
We get the, we got these deeper defects that are starting to pop up, and the addiction hid from us, or we let the addiction hide.
Good.
And we can't, now we're trying to figure out how to deal with that without the coping mechanism.
And the last 5 words of that sentence that you were talking about is that God wants to heal, right?
Right.
So, so we're going to find out how things happen when we have that healing, right? So, all right, let's see what happens.
Our addictions functions as a place of shelter.
So what does that mean?
It takes us away from the real world, keeps us where we think we're in a safe place and nothing can touch us.
Okay, so is that a rational or irrational belief?
Irrational.
Okay, but it feels like it's true.
We trained ourselves to think it's true.
Okay, okay. Well, but it feels that way.
That's what we know. That's all we know.
Okay,
Oh, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm going to go do this to numb this, so I feel better.
okay. So then, are you saying that all it does is temporarily numb us, and as soon as that is gone, then it comes back again, and maybe even
Comes back
more so?
again, so we have to go numb it again. So
Okay. All right. All right. Start with that sentence again, and our addictions.
our addictions function as a place of shelter from our pain.
Mm.
But when the shelter is removed, deep anger may surface.
Okay, hold it right there. So, what does that mean when the shelter is removed?
Means that, okay, I got nowhere to hide now, so I'm out in the open here and I don't want to be here. So I'm gonna use anger to throw everybody else off that I'm all right.
Okay, so this shelter is kind of like a covering,
Yes,
or in the sentence before talked about it was a pain reliever, right?
right.
And so when it's moved, then we have these behaviors like deep anger. They may surface, right? That's what you're
Right.
saying.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
But when the shelter is removed, deep anger may surface, exposing even deeper character flaws that need healed.
Well, what does that mean?
Means that we're getting down to the point that, okay, this is what's making it tick.
Okay.
This is what I need to focus on.
So in other words, we got stuff under stuff under
Right.
stuff. And as soon as we stop, we eliminate the shelter or the pain preventer that's on the surface, it could reveal multiple layers of stuff.
Right.
That is what we were talking about a while ago, that stuff is what's shaping our life. How do we like that? You thought you were in control. So is that true? That's just a thought question. Go ahead.
Jonah had a glaring defect of character.
What? Wait. Say that again.
Jonah had a glaring defect of character.
What is that?
That means he couldn't see it? Or,
He had a really bad one.
yeah.
Okay, really bad defective character. Okay. All right, go ahead.
He couldn't forgive and have compassion for the people of Nineveh who he had hated.
Okay. So his defective character was what?
He didn't have forgiveness or compassion for people he didn't like.
All right. And these people in Nineveh were 120,000 adults that had been mean to his country. I'm talking about Jonah. And so they had hated them for generations. And so he didn't like them one bit. And so he didn't forgive them. He didn't have compassion on them. And so we know the story, right? That he to keep himself from obeying God and talking to the Ninevites, he jumped the ship and headed out to sea. Everybody familiar with that story, Jonah and the whale? And anyway, to make a long story short, they tossed him over, and God anointed a giant fish to swallow him up, and he was in the belly of that giant fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And while he was there, he came to himself. Anybody here ever come to yourself? Figured out, hey, I need to do something different than I've been doing. And so that's a really good time to figure that out, is when you're in the belly of a giant fish, which most of us would call hell, right? You know, and so, and that's what it represented, was hell. And so he said, okay, I'll go preach to the Ninevites. And so then he got puked up on the beach where the, back where he, in the direction of where he started, right, there at Nineveh. And he told them, hey, repent, you got 40 days. If you don't repent, you're going to be destroyed. So he preached to them. But he didn't want to do that. Not even now. Because he told God that, I know what you're going to do. Because they're going to repent, you're going to forgive them. And I don't want you to forgive them. I want you to destroy them. So, we'll stop the story right there before we go into the next part.
Okay. When God decided not to destroy them, Jonah threw a temper tantrum.
Okay, so when he figured out after the 40 days, he went up on the hillside by himself. He isolated himself. He went up there because he wanted to see them destroyed. But he was really upset and angry because he really thought God was going to forgive them because they were repenting. Okay, and so, but he was hoping for destruction. Okay, and this was the prophet of God who just preached to him and got over 120,000 people saved. But he was wanting them to die. And that's a lot of unforgiveness, right?
Yes.
And anger. I call that a character defect, right? Would you call it a character defect? And so he went up on this isolated spot. And then what happened, Willie? Because that's where we're at.
The Lord replied in Jonah 4, 8 through Jonah 4, 4 through 8. Is it right for you to be angry about this?
Now, who's saying what to whom?
Lord is speaking to Jonah.
Okay. And he's asking, this is a question. And what is he asking Jonah?
Is this right? Is this right for you to be angry about this?
That's a pretty good question, isn't it?
Yes.
So what is he angry about?
Angry about God not destroying them.
Yeah. He wanted them destroyed, right? So he's pitching a fit. I wonder, listen to me now, I wonder if we ever throw a fit about we not getting our way. Did you notice how quiet it was?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. Just, and so that's what he was doing, okay? All right, and he felt justified by it, right? He felt justified. I mean, he was the prophet, okay? So, what do you think all that verse, in your opinion, what do you think that all means?
I think that God was trying to tell Jonah that, hey, why are you angry? I mean, where's your point?
That is such a good point, Willie. That God wasn't mad back at him, okay? He was mad at God, but God wasn't mad back at him.
Yeah.
Right? He was trying to help him. He was trying to talk to him. Has anybody ever tried to talk to you when you're mad?
You don't want to hear it.
You won't listen.
I wonder if that's because that's a character defect.
Pretty much so. I think that's one that you're born with. No.
You inherit it, but I don't know if you're born with it. And so, and then you nurse it along and perfect it. And you say things to judges.
Yeah.
So we won't bring that up.
Yeah. I was justified in that.
Yeah, you've been saying that. One of these days you're going to get right. So, here we are. He's pitching a fit. God's trying to reason with him and talk him down and get him back, because, hey man, he threw a fit and tried to run away from God. Now, how logical is that? And then God anointed a fish to swallow him. Now, that's pretty big time. And bring him back to the job. Wow. Huh. And then he throws a fit and God talks to him and asks him a question. That was pretty generous of God. If God was going to kill anybody, maybe it should have been a different person. But he didn't kill him either, right?
No.
So, I guess we're ready to move on.
Then Jonah went out to the east side of the city, and the Lord God arranged for a leafy plant to grow there.
Okay. Go ahead, we'll let you finish.
And soon it spread a broad leaf over Jonah's head.
Okay, stop right there. So, so here again, you have to see what God's trying to do. God is trying to show Jonah some grace and mercy, even when he's acting stupid. Okay, anybody here ever acted stupid? You don't have to answer that. And so, so he's acting stupid and acting out, and he's trying to help him to, because he had this plant grow up there with big leaves, fast growing plant to shade him. Okay, and the next statement is that those leaves shaded him from the sun, and that was God's gift, and he really appreciated that shade right then.
Until it was gone.
Yeah. Well, we're not to that part of the story yet, John, but thanks for the spoiler alert. And so here we are. God's trying to give him mercy to show him that he loved him even though he's still pitching a fit. Can you believe that? Right? Do you see what's going on here? And God was showing him that he was still interested. He was trying to bring him around again by having this shade for him. Thoughts? Any thoughts? Okay, let's go.
The next morning, the plant withered away, and as the sun grew hot, God arranged for a scorching east wind to blow on Jonah. The sun beat down on his head until he grew faint and wished to die.
So, what do you think about that statement? Any thoughts? Any thoughts?
God showing him what it could be if he didn't have it. You know.
Yeah. This part of the verse in this section here caused me to do some thinking and research. And I don't know, I can't really go into all of it, but anybody here familiar with the carrot and stick philosophy? Yes? Carrot is the reward, stick is the punishment, or if not punishment, stern motivation. Okay? And so it appears that God was using some of that philosophy with Jonah. What do you think? He was showing him kindness, he was showing him grace, he was giving him shade, and he still was entrenched in his anger. Right? Right? And so the next morning, he anointed a worm, just like he anointed a fish. He had a fish rescue him when he was thrown into the water to die. Okay? Funny how he wanted to die, so they threw him overboard. Now he's on top of this hill and in the sun and the wind, and he wants to die again. It just grabbed my curiosity how all that worked. And so here he is. God's trying to show him grace and mercy wasn't seem to get his attention. So maybe, he was getting some of that stick part of it to help him show that he's not really in control of things. Things don't revolve around what he says that it should be. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Do you guys agree with that statement? But you know what? Jonah's acting just the way that sometimes we've acted. Or if it wasn't us, we know somebody. Probably nobody in here, but we know somebody. Yes? Maybe? And that person that we know, how did it work out for them? It's kind of like beating your head against the wall, isn't it? The wall doesn't usually give in before the head does. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
So I ask another question, if you don't mind me to deviate. Is it all right if I deviate? You're okay with that? Roger, you good with that? Okay, all right, I'll deviate. So I asked the question, so is there any difference between how God functioned in the Old Testament and how God functions in the New Testament? Does God use the carrot and stick philosophy in the New Testament? Because it seemed like he did some of that in the Old Testament. Would you agree with that statement? And so I'd have to look at my notes, but I made a couple down here. Some of the stuff that I saw that in the Old Testament, he offered blessings versus curses. Deuteronomy 28, that if you do the bad things, you get the curses. If you do the good things, you get the blessings, right? Blessings or cursings, right? You get to choose. He lets us choose. He tells us what to choose. Choose life, right? But you get to choose. And in the New Testament, he gives us grace. He gives us love. And he gives us an identity. A change of identity, or actually being able to come into our true identity. Okay? What he called us. A while ago we were talking about how you treated yourself. That was you and your false identity. Who would tell you who your false identity? Who would give you the words for your false identity? Excuse me? The devil, yeah. And why is it that we seem to believe the devil and his lies quicker than we believe God and his truth? Have you ever thought about that? Yeah. Anybody have an answer for me? No answer?
Scary.
That's a good question, isn't it? You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. So in the Old Testament, we had. I thought this was pretty good. It talked about the internal law, which was written on stone. You had the external law that's written in stone tablets, and the external law that's written on our human heart. Scripture talks about that we have His Word in our heart. We already know it inside, and all we have to do is listen to it and be willingly desires to line up with it. What do you think about that statement?
That's good.
So, there is some difference from what research I did today on how God functioned between the Old Testament and the New Testament. I think that's pretty good. I liked it myself. I hope you guys like it too. So, all right, Willie. Any questions from anybody? Go ahead.
God did this to show Jonah that the real problem wasn't the loss of the shelter. Hatred was the real problem.
Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
No. Not right.
So, I got down here. So, what is the real problem? Do what?
Anger.
Anger?
Hatred is anger.
Hatred? Okay. Okay. So, we identified his real problem, right? Guess what my next question is?
The real problem is our attitude.
What is your real problem?
Our attitude.
You don't have to say. It's just a question. What? We got the 911 on Jonah here. Or is it 411? I guess it's 411.
411.
Yeah, information. Do they even have that anymore? Do they?
Yeah, it's called Google.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And so, anyway, so So we got the lowdown on Jonah. How about yourself? Because if we can identify that, then we can start to work on setting ourselves free. Right? Right? If you want to be free. If you really want to be free. Okay. You know, last week, Vanessa made this statement about the scripture that we was going over, but actually we didn't read that portion of the scripture, and it was out of Isaiah 55, 8 and 9, where it talks about God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts, His ways are higher than our ways, and sometimes we forget about that, and that our imagination doesn't get anywhere close to God's imagination. What do you think about that statement? Yeah. Go ahead, Will.
The removal of our sheltering addictions may expose deeper problems.
What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, because we're getting rid of the easier parts. Now we're stuck with this other stuff that we've been hiding from it. Now it's out in the open, so we got to get rid of it.
We got to?
We'd be better off if we did.
All right, I agree with that statement.
I mean,
We don't got to, right? We can swallow poison the rest of our life, but how's that going to work out for us?
Now, if you want to get better, you got to get rid of it.
Okay.
If you don't want to get better, then no, there's your door.
Okay. You're into the spiraling septic soup, right?
Yes.
Now, like Israelis, when they were heading to the promised land, they were stuck 40 years in their craft until the old ones died and the new ones were all of age and they could go and take the land.
Yeah. Or another way of saying it that we say nowadays is our stinking thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Go ahead.
This may spark defensive anger as God touches our deepest hurts.
What does that mean?
As it's brought to the surface, we're probably gonna get mad. We're probably gonna say stuff.
It says may spark. What does that mean? May spark. What's that mean? May spark.
Oh, it depends on how you interpret it.
Okay.
It may. Some people may be able to deal with it a little easier than others, and then some people may struggle.
It says that may spark defensive anger.
Give me a second here. I don't know. I'm gonna pass that on back to you.
Anybody have any thoughts on what this means? This may spark defensive anger.
Well, I just thought you were gonna have to go through some consequences, maybe.
Could be, but see, isn't that referring to our defensive anger?
Yeah.
Okay, and removing of this shelter, we're exposed. Have you ever seen anybody that was detoxing
Yes.
and their mood seems to be in a particular place? Did I say that about right? Yeah. And overall, it's it's difficult to because they are in a really bad mood because they feel terrible, right? In fact, they're sick because their body was used to certain chemicals and now the body's not getting it, and the body is torturing them because it wants those chemicals, right?
Yep.
And it can really pitch a fit, and it can spark like lighting a fire, right? I had a guy here the other day, he says, man, when I was detoxing, I'd be crying one minute and yelling the next. And he said, I didn't think anybody noticed. Isn't that the way it is? We don't think anybody sees it. before, during, and after. Okay. Too much truth?
Truth will set you free.
Yeah, that's what they say, and I believe it's so. If you're able to grab it and embrace it, believe it, and internalize it, make it a part of your life. Okay, so it says here, this may spark a defensive anger as God touches our deepest hurts. Again, we talked about that we hide our hurts from everybody else, and we even try to hide them from ourselves, right? You know, they tried to control and manipulate Jesus by calling him names, trying to find his emotional buttons. Anybody here ever had your buttons pushed?
Yep.
And when they push them, and then if you react and you get angry, that sparked anger, like we're talking about here, then basically they are in control of you because they can manipulate you with pushing your buttons.
Yep.
They tried that with Jesus, and the problem was they couldn't find his buttons to push him. So he never got out of control there when they were doing that. In fact, I don't know of any time he really got out of control, except for...
The only time was in the temple.
Well, that's what people say, that he got out of control.
Well, I'm just saying,
But I don't think he was out of control, because I think he knew exactly what he was doing and how he was doing it. Because he went in prepared, because the night before he went up over the city and prayed and wept over that city and loved that city and loved those people, and he wanted to help them. And besides that, no rage or anger was enough to drive those old boys out of their spots that they fought for. Okay? And so he was able to do something in a supernatural way to bring it to pass. So I don't think it was, as some people say, righteous indignation. It may appear that his behaviors was out of anger, but I think it was actually out of love. But when we get sparked, we can get out of control, and when we get out of control, then we are under the control of something other than ourselves. Does that make sense what I just said? We turn our control. You say, well, I'm not going to let anything control me. Well, your anger does all the time. Right? Okay, well, I better stop there before you get angry. Go ahead.
It is all right to let anger out. But it is also important to let God
Wait a second. Because I want to say that it's good to do that, let anger out, because it's a signal, it's a sign, because it's a symptom. Does that make sense? That is, wait a minute, what's going on here? I got something pushing me around here. How about that? It helps us to see. Okay? All right. Anger is a good. It is not all anger is bad. Okay?
anger is a good motivator.
It can be helpful. It can be very helpful if you know how to use it properly. But the fact of it is, most of the time we don't. Right? Go ahead.
But it is also important to let God take care of the real problem.
The real problem. Wonder what the real problem is.
Hurt.
Hurt could be.
Equality.
I couldn't hear you.
Equality.
Equality could be.
The thoughts were in control.
The thoughts that we're in control could be.
Fear.
That could very well be. Because all those things he was listed could fall on the category of fear, right? How about this? Believing a lie about yourself and not recognizing the truth about yourself. How about that?
Yeah.
Who you really are. Because if we believe a lie about ourselves, then we believe that, so then how does that make us feel? Some of those things you just said, and then those feelings then causes certain behaviors. What do you think? Too much? And it's important to let God help us. He wants to. He showed us with Jonah. He continually was trying to help him when he was in complete error, right? From running the opposite direction to pitching a fit, right? To getting mad about a plant that died on him, you know, and in the hot weather, he just, you know.
What kind of fight was that?
It was some sort of gourd, from what I understand. But it was a live one and then it became a dead one, so I'm just playing with you. Go ahead.
I'm done.
You're done? Okay, I have a statement written down here before I get to your last two questions. It says, it is all right to let that anger out, which you already said right there. But make sure you let God in to bring in the healing. So when you let the anger out, that is opening up a space to where you can let God in to that space. Isn't that what you like that? Is that okay? And then it says, when you create that space, when you create that space by getting it out, but then you can then fill that, which I've already said, you can fill that space with the healing power of God, which is way more healthy than that anger. So when you recognize it, you say, you can speak the truth to God by saying, I'm angry, but I don't want to be angry. Will you help me with my anger? Will you fill me with your peace? Or will you heal me of whatever this is? You know, and begin to work with, allowing Him to work in you. You begin to work with Him so that He can help us all. How about that? So, now I want to say thank you to Willie, because who was supposed to be here doing this part wasn't able to be here because he had a job situation that happened. So Willie thankfully jumped in there. So thank you, Willie. So can you tell us what you learned from this lesson?
I learned that I'm going to have to deal with my deeper hurts.
Good.
My defects, character, whatever you want to call them. Because if they're inside, they're going to take up space that God needs to be into.
Good. Good. So what's your takeaway?
That hopefully somebody out there is going through the same stuff, and that hopefully they get in alignment, and we just keep going, pushing forward.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it. And now we have Lori with our reflection and question part. She gets to ask the questions now. Isn't that great?
I'm asking. Hi.
You're reading the questions
Yes, I am.
and asking yourself, and maybe the rest of us.
Okay. What deeper problems did my addiction shelter from my awareness?
So, what do we mean by addictions? My addictions. What does that mean? Does that just mean drugs and alcohol? Does that mean
No.
anything else?
Well, it means everything that we talked about here
Okay.
when he read the clean time.
All right.
Drugs, alcohol, but whatever keeps you in bondage,
Okay. Good deal.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Passive aggressive behavior,
Mhm.
obsessive compulsive behaviors.
Yeah. drugs, alcohol, anger, gambling, food addiction, lying, cheating, stealing, pornography, sex addiction, cutting, you fill in the blanks, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so what deeper problems did my addiction shelter from my awareness? Reality. I know that's really broad, and you're gonna encourage me to narrow it down a little bit, so I did that.
Good.
Okay. Specifically, especially, self-awareness, and even narrowing it down more for you. I think one of the first times I got up here, I talked about how I really liked my Scarlett O'Hara complex. Do you remember me talking about that?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. You know what I mean by Scarlett O'Hara at the end of Gone with the Wind?
What was it she said?
I'll think about it tomorrow. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah. Tomorrow. And then just toss it away into that great vast beyond of tomorrowness.
And that was her way of dealing with it, but Red Butler had a different way,
Yeah, he did.
as if I recall.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what he said.
Yeah. I haven't watched that movie in a while. I should watch it again. But I can deal with it how Rhett Butler. He's more of the Rhett Butler type.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm more of the Scarlett O'Hara complex. And I just didn't realize how big and heavy and ugly the Scarlett O'Hara tomorrow bucket had gotten. And started to fester and grow and got.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. It got really big and heavy.
There was some of that
stinky and rotten and.
repressed, suppressed stuff, huh?
Yeah. Lots of it was in there.
So I wasn't lying a while ago.
No.
Oh, okay, just checking.
No. I don't think any of us thought you were lying.
Oh, okay. So you can read everybody's mind?
No,
Oh, okay,
no,
just checking.
no, but I don't think any of us would be here if we thought you weren't telling the full truth.
Well,
Nothing but the truth.
I don't know that anybody can tell the full truth.
No, but to the best of your ability,
Yeah.
we assume you are speaking truth.
I'm just harassing you. Go ahead.
I can harass back.
You can.
I can very, very well. All right, so, yeah. Deeper problems, and there was a bunch of them. So, all right, good.
Whatever you want to share.
Okay.
You know,
That's-
I'm not here to push you past
Yeah. Well, there was a whole bunch of them in there. There still are. I'm working on sorting through that
Good.
little bits.
Congratulations.
Out of thanks. You're welcome to take some of them if you want.
I got enough.
You sure about that?
I'm sufficient.
Okay. Number 2. What
Well, you gonna read the rest of them, what they said down here, or did I just put them in there? About my awareness, pride,
Yes.
egocentric.
Go ahead. I didn't type those in my tablet.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
I
Fear,
fear.
anger.
Yes, I had fear.
Okay, and hatred.
Not really hatred. Great disliking. Great disliking.
No hatred. And so revenge isn't a part of that.
Define revenge.
What do you think the definition is?
Well, getting even with people. But I'm not really a vengeful type person, I don't think. So I don't really.
So then we hold our anger for what purpose?
It's natural and it's normal and it's easy.
That's not the answer to my question.
Repeat the question.
What's the purpose of holding on to our anger?
Because it's comfort. comfortable and
Well, it
it's easy.
And it makes you sick, and
it does.
it can affect
yes,
you.
and it
and it's
does.
a lot of fun to be
Yes,
mad at
and
somebody.
it's just doesn't
Yeah,
feel natural
Yeah.
to let
So,
go.
anxiety
Yes.
and stress
Yes.
are all good elements to
No.
enhance our life.
No.
Oh,
No. But it's just not natural
No.
or easy
Yeah, oh, it
to
it is natural to hold on and with anger and have revenge. I think we did this one with you before, haven't we, Willie? Yeah. Are you enjoying
Yep.
this?
I'm not gonna say no. I'm condemned either way I go here.
So holding on to that is actually feeding ourselves poison
Yes.
and hoping other people will die.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
And
I've heard
so
that before. I've
yeah,
experienced
yeah,
that before.
and that's a human behavioral pattern.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
but the supernatural, spirit-led behavior is opposite of that, right?
Yes.
Because it brings peace
Yes.
and healing and health, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, psychologically, financially, all the different realms,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So what am I trying to say?
Don't hold on to the anger.
Okay, why? Because that's part of that stuff that's shaping our life, right?
Yes.
Those
Yes.
deeper hurts.
Yes.
But we have convinced ourselves that it's natural
Good
to hold
natural
on to.
thing to hold on to them
because I've
we've
had
been holding
how
on
long?
to
So
them
long, yeah.
for
they're
so
my,
long.
they're
There
my
are
besties.
Lobbies.
Yeah.
There are lobbies. There are
Yeah,
best
yeah,
friends.
yeah.
We do not feel comfortable
gonna-
or safe or secure.
And they'll
Unless
stay
we're
with you all the way to the grave.
That's right. We've got to hold
Probably
on
put
to
you there
them.
earlier.
Our best friend. We've got to hold their hand and keep
Okay.
them with us because they make us feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we feel
I
lost
don't know
and
about
lonely
safe,
without them.
but familiar. So.
Yeah, it's just it's what we've always done. It's our pattern.
So,
It-
yeah,
it's
that
our,
is. It's,
we
it's,
we
you know,
talked about this.
Yes,
Haven't you been listening to yourself, Doug?
I have.
He's cracking up because he deals with me all the
and
time.
this ecocentrism is the ability to think that our way is the only way that it is, and that's basically was Jonah's problem.
Yeah.
Because he wanted his way.
Yes.
It's like, I want to hold on to this
Yeah,
grudge.
I was sitting back there kind of giggling to myself, thinking that he was acting a whole lot like a spoiled, selfish teenage female. Almost. Throwing a fit, stomping his feet, demanding that he have his way, and he have his way now, and that's all there is to it. Almost like what it was.
I don't disagree with you.
I've recently raised a teenage girl, so
Hmm.
that's kind of what it seems like. You know, when teenage girls don't get their way, they can be kind of makes you want to play whack-a-child, you know? and right?
You know, that would be the natural response, yes, but, you know, that's not how God responded.
No, and there's a reason why God is God and I am not.
Because there's those things underneath the surface that's shaping your life.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just thought I'd make that point.
I appreciate it.
Let's go to number 2.
Okay. What difficulties have I suffered due to lack of forgiveness or compassion for others?
Mm.
All right, well,
Well,
first,
this is the same question with different words.
yes, it is.
Mm.
I feel that I have compassion for others.
Unless they did you wrong or hurt you or made you mad and you're angry at them and want revenge. Okay.
Okay, yes,
All,
true,
all,
true. I'll give you that one, but
all the others.
in general, I have great compassion for others. To be a caregiver, you have to have compassion
Yeah.
for people, and I am a caregiver. However,
That's good quality.
forgiveness
Mhm.
is the booger of a one here that I don't like, because there are lots of people that I have struggled to forgive
Mm-hmm.
and dealt with that
Yeah.
and still dealing with that.
It is, but and that's some of that fear of hurt
Mhm.
and afraid to be hurt again.
Yes.
So we just decide to go ahead and hurt ourselves by unforgiveness.
Most of the time, yes, and yes, I have done that, and I'm here and rambling, probably sounding like a irrational teenage female up here. So obviously that routine hasn't played out well for me because I can't look at you.
You're too honest.
Huh?
I said you're too
Is
honest.
that a fault?
No.
Unforgiveness has caused health issues.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Good.
Multiple health issues. Relationship problems.
Mhm.
Trauma, mental, emotional, physical trauma.
Okay.
Beyond explanation. And full honesty, there's still people I haven't forgiven.
So, won't you read that question again for us?
What difficulties have I suffered due to lack of forgiveness or compassion for others? A lot. A whole lot. Undescribable. Lot.
How about you guys?
Fear that it's gonna happen again. The fear that it's gonna happen with the thing that caused the unforgiveness is gonna happen again.
I went through 2 decades, 20 years when I didn't talk to my dad because I couldn't forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
That's 20 years you don't get back.
Yeah.
That's,
So, what do you think that question is wanting us to reflect on and get out of it? Because this is a reflection.
yes, it's wanting you to really look at what unforgiveness has done to you and what unforgiveness has caused, what the pain of unforgiveness has caused in your life, and the damage unforgiveness has done to you in your life, the pain unforgiveness has caused you. Yes?
Yeah. And sometimes people think if you forgive somebody, then you're saying that there wasn't a trespass, there wasn't a wrong.
No.
That's not what
No.
forgiveness is about, right?
No.
It's that I'm not going to carry around this anymore.
Right.
So I'm going to let it go.
Yes.
And if you might say it this way, I let it go and let God deal with that.
Yes. And I'm still struggling with that on some issues.
Well, that's the reason why we're asking questions, right?
Yes, and I'm going to move on to number 3 because
Sounds
number
good.
2 changed my view on number 3. Am I ready to have these defects removed by God? Now, every other time that I've been up here, I have firmly and immediately said yes, right?
Pretty much.
Well, yes. But after that question and realizing that I still have unforgiveness towards people, that I cannot say yes.
That sounds a lot like Jonah, doesn't it?
Well, that was kind of harsh, Doug. That wasn't specific.
That was just a question.
Stop that.
It was just a question.
I realize that.
Do what?
Said there's one of them sparks.
You're not supposed to heckle me. Be sweet. Be sweet.
So,
Ecclesiastes 3. There's a season and a time for everything.
that's true.
Yes. I am getting closer, and every
Wow, that's good.
day
That's good.
it is my desire, my honest desire to have God remove these defects.
So
to
you
come along.
personally can relate with Jonah and how angry he was and
Yes.
throwing his temper tantrum
Yes.
and acting like a teenage girl.
Yes. I've been a teenage girl.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I have.
Well, you said that he was acting like a teenage girl because he was acting in unforgiveness towards the Ninevites,
Yes.
and he wanted them all to die.
Yes.
Okay, and that's because he'd been angry at them forever. Okay,
And it
and he had
was,
good reason.
yes, and it was a generational anger too,
Yeah,
right?
it was. Yes, it was.
It wasn't just his, it was a generational anger, like
He
a
was
generational
He
curse.
was taught to hate the Ninevites, and
Yes.
he was the prophet.
Yeah.
My God's going to beat your God up. Type.
Yeah, but it was a generational curse
Right.
that he had inherited.
And he was struggling with it. The
Yes.
good thing was he went on and did what he needed to do, but he had to spend 3 days in hell to do that.
Yes.
But he still did it. But then he was mad about it.
Yes, and he didn't do it with the right attitude.
No, he didn't. He said, I knew, God, you would forgive him. That's the reason why I didn't want to do this.
Right? With my daughter, I always told her she got in trouble, more trouble for her attitude than her actions. 95% of the time, it was her attitude that got her in trouble rather than her actions. It's the same thing with
Yeah,
Jonah.
I was going to say that. It sounded like a Jonah experience.
Yeah,
His attitude.
that attitude
Yeah.
gets you
Boy.
every time.
Boy, that hurts.
Truth hurts, Doug. The truth hurts. Who's got the spark now, Doug?
So
He warned you. Well, he warned you about me, didn't he?
he did?
Okay.
No, he did not that I know of.
Okay. Well, I should come with a warning label.
Right.
So, back to question number 3.
Yes. Okay. Am I ready to have these defects removed by God? I am trying. I want to be ready.
Now that's what step 6 is about,
Yes, God is coming along beside me. We are working together. I cannot do it on my own. When I am ready, when God sees that I am ready, that I have surrendered totally, then God will remove the defects. But I am not there yet. I am striving, I am working towards it, I am running the race, and I'm not gonna stop.
Okay.
And one day,
Good.
one day,
I believe you.
one day,
So, what have you learned from our lesson tonight?
I am not as far along as I want to be, and I am going to keep going and working.
It's good to know the way reality is, right?
Yes,
Instead of living in a fantasy.
yes.
So, what's your takeaway?
A Scarlett O'Hara bucket needs to just go away. No more Scarlett O'Hara syndrome. And just keep going. Just can't stop. Can't go back. Gotta keep working on the forgiveness.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, I'm sure there is, but I probably won't remember it until this time tomorrow.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Lori.
Good job.
So what have you learned from our lesson tonight? Anyone want to share?
I was thinking about, like, not repeating the same behaviors over and over again, so you
Good.
get the same, have to go through the same stuff, because it might not be as easy the next time.
That's good. That's good. But of course, Einstein said that's insanity, repeating the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? What'd you learn? Okay. All right. Well, next week I won't be here, and what's the topic for next week?
Attitudes and actions. actually.
Oh, looky there! Attitudes and actions. Where did I just hear that?
I believe that is one. I'm gonna verify. Yes, attitudes and actions.
Okay.
And Robert's gonna be doing it.
Robert's doing that, and who'll be doing the reflection?
Vanessa.
Vanessa, that's correct. All right. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate you being here. And may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you and give you His peace.